The German invasion of Europe resulted of millions of people who were stripped of their wealth, families, humanity, but some people survived. This is a story about my father, Bruno Siba, who had to hide his religion, deny his roots, and forever be known as Bruno Siba. My father lived with his parents and his sister Melita in Chernov by WWII Czechoslovakia, where my grandfather owned a restaurant.
My father went to university in Prague studying economics, and he must have been about 23 or 24 when he finished his studies. After the university, my father would have gone to do the national service and was in the army. And he was in the army until the end of 1938, when, after the Munich Agreement, when the Germans occupied the northern borders of Czechoslovakia, that area was called Sudetenland. Then eventually on the 15th of March 1939, the rest of Czechoslovakia collapsed and the Germans walked into the whole of Czechoslovakia. Now, approximately at that time when the Germans started to rule the Sudetenland, all the Jews were told to leave their properties and just go further down inland. And of course there was no compensation or anything. My grandfather, I understand, was asked to come to an interview at the local police station, which was by then managed by the Germans, and the interview wasn't very pleasant, and I think there was some mistreatment, I believe. So it was quite clear that they had to leave the area. So one day they managed to bribe some train drivers who took them over the Polish border. They crossed over to Poland one dark night, because Poland was not occupied at the time.
They left my father's mother behind because they thought that no one would harm elderly women. It was not the case, because they moved them to a place close to Minsk in Ukraine called Malý Trostinec, and they murdered them.
My father managed to get on a train that took prospective recruits to the Czechoslovak army overseas, and that enabled them to cross the border on the train eventually to Romania. His father and sister were not able to join this train, and so they stayed in Poland and just walked east as far as they could. I'm sure he knew that if he stayed on, his life would be in more danger, but there was this opportunity to get on the train, and he just had to take it. So that's the last that my father knew of what happened to his father and sister at the time. Unfortunately, the 1st of September was the beginning of the Second World War. The Germans started the war with Poland, and the borders were closed, so no one was able to go to the west anymore. So there was a huge number of refugees trying to go east, and so was my father and my grandfather and my father's sister. My father, later when we returned to Prague, to Czechoslovakia, he was obviously, everyone was searching for their relations. All the Jewish families had someone in their family who was killed by the Germans, and mainly in the concentration camps. And then later we found out that my grandfather and my aunt were taken by the Germans and taken to a field. They were told to dig their own graves, and they were shot.
And in June 1941, when Hitler invaded Soviet Union, they were evacuated further to the east until he came to Kyrgyzia, today called Kyrgyzstan. On the way he met my mother with some other young people.
It was quite clear the Germans kept coming all faster and faster, so they persuaded these two girls to go east with them. My father married one of the girls that went with them on the train.
My parents married. I have a certificate. It says that the marriage took place on the 12th of December 1941.
My mother couldn't get the exit visa, so they had to stay in Kyrgyzstan, and I was born there in 1946. My sister was born in October 1948. My father managed to get a job in a local cooperative as the bookkeeper, and my mother was helping with the children.
After the Second World War finished, my father wanted to come back to Czechoslovakia with his family, but Soviet officials argued that it is crazy to go from a communist beautiful country to a capitalist country. Only after Czechoslovakia was changed to a communist country as well in 1948, my father managed to get visas. In 1949, we eventually managed to come to Prague after a week of journey on a train.
But there was this atmosphere that of anti-Semitism. Many people started to fear that their lives were threatened, and they tried to minimize the danger of them being affected. And one of the problems was their names. Many Jews had names which clearly for the public were of Jewish origin, and so my father decided to change his surname from Silbiger to Siba, and Siba didn't mean anything. So that somehow minimized my father's exposure to being threatened by the fact that he was Jewish.
We are in Picard synagogue that is not used for prayers anymore, but is used mainly for commemorating many thousands of Jewish people who were killed in the Second World War. The Jewish community in Prague decided to put all the names they knew about on the walls. Not all the people that were killed in the Second World War obviously are here. Some people are here although they were not killed. My father came here for the first time and saw his name on the wall. It was quite shocking for him. My father's name used to be Silbiger. He then changed his name. So Bruno Siba is here, and his father, Hinek's name is here as well. From that point on, my father and his family, our life was changed forever, together with the fact that forever we would be known as Siba.